I'm Isabel. I'm the founder of I Like Networking, which is a career platform for the creative industries, particularly focused on women and non-binary individuals. I also run some other things. I have an agency, I have a sports community, so community is all the rage. That's what we're going to be talking today. So I have three incredible people to talk to. We have Fee McKenzie, as Kieran said, founder of Creative Ally. She also has a platform called Club Creative Camry. Camry, sorry, Welsh, for amazing Welsh talent in London. Rotimi is the founder of Climber,
Yes.
which has empowered over 1,000 people to adventure, movement, and personal growth. And Daisy, founder of Selfhood and writer, author of Community is Your Currency. So no better people to talk about community. So today we're going to talk about it, but I won't bore anyone with the question of what is a community, because I think there are way too many definitions. So I'm going to start with the panel to ask, what is your experience with community today in professional or personal matters? Who wants to go first?
I'm happy to start. I think for me, the reason that I build community and the reason that I feel so passionately about letting other people know that they can create their own communities is that we are literally in a loneliness epidemic right now. And quite often we associate loneliness with like elderly people who may have lost family, but that epidemic affects all generations. And it's so ironic that we're so hyper-connected through our screens, but we're actually really disconnected. And there's so much research and there's so much data to support that. And I think to be the connecting thread that can unite people in a time where we need it more than ever is so, so, so important. But I think, and I'm sure we'll go into this today, something that I feel really passionately about is educating people on the difference between a passive social media audience and a community. So like community is like really connecting people through their values, their beliefs, their lifestyles, and creating spaces where people can essentially feel like they belong. Oh, sorry, my Britney mic's having a mo. So yeah, I think for me, it's not the glossy vanity metrics that we see online that brands will quite often say like, welcome to the community, and I'm like, you literally have a passive audience, like, and they're very different things. So for me, it's about like that real, like actual connection and belonging for real.
Yeah,
I don't know
love
what you
that.
think as well.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I think you can have an offline community, you can have an online community, but you can, I think more importantly, having an offline community where people meet in person and being intentional is really important. When I started my community, I actually didn't think I was starting a community. It happened super organically. I went climbing for the first time and I told my friends about it. And then I posted stuff on social media, and then the social media did what social media does. People saw it and they were like, hey, can we join you? And all of a sudden I was forming a community. And I think at the heart of community is people, and meeting people where they are and being intentional and showing up and being consistent is where you really form community.
Amazing.
So my perspective is from like two sides. So I run a talent agency for purpose-driven creators who all have and are all building their own communities, interested in subjects like sustainability or driving diversity in tech or campaigning against, campaigning for, not against, gender equality. And I also, like you, Rotimi, built my own community, Club Creative Cymru, which is a community to help like connect and amplify Welsh creatives in London. And I would say like a community for me is all about kind of dialogue. It's all about being like having like an open conversation, no matter how big your community is. It's about like the dialogue being open to suggestions. It's often a solution as well, because communities arrive often because there is something missing. So it could be that for example, I'm just pulling a name out of thin air, but Dykes Who Hike, for example, a community that join together to to go on hikes all over the UK, and they have a shared shared need for wanting to go outside and enjoy nature, and also like be a sort of collective. So I think often communities spring from like the tension of something that's missing, the need for something. So I think that should always be remembered. Like for example, your community and what you do, Daisy. So yeah, always having that insight of like what is the gap is important.
I think you both touch upon like really great characteristics of what makes a good community and why we need that. But you also said a few things, Daisy, of what happens if it's not done well, and what can happen when those communities maybe are taken over. And I think all of you have experience in both ends of the community aspect, but also working with the brands, because community has become this hype word that a lot of times people confuse for audiences or potential customers and clients. And so there's been a lot of pushback recently in London with the amount of run clubs that pop up, and every single brand has a run club. And I think there's a consideration when we think about brands and people in agencies of, okay, we're going to partner with a community. Are we going to overtake them? So how do you all see the balance of, working with brands or that come to your community, or even pitching to communities, and working in that balance between impact, being really transparent and true to what you are, but also letting other communities and let other brands in, or having some financial gain from it.
I can go, if that's all right. So yeah, we manage quite a few creators, and like I said, they all have their communities, and often, like you said, there's an offline element that brands might want to tap into. I think brands often don't connect with the community early enough. They join, or they want to empower them when they are they're in their thousands, and I think that is like the wrong kind of process. I feel like brands should really try and connect to grassroots early communities, and really like help with like minimal involvement. If they want to empower them by funding something that they might want to do. And I think it's about like, for brands to really listen to what the community is about, what their needs are, what are the things that they'd love to do to support the community, rather than thinking about, okay, we're going to get our logos here, we're going to create this activation that looks like this. You've really got to think about like what does that community need? Is it like I don't know, do you want to supply water bottles for their next like run club or something, or is it you're going to put some money so that they can like fund a space for like the men's yoga group or whatever. But I think it's like doing so in a kind of a minimal way, and not being so kind of, I am the brand, so therefore I have a lot of say or input in it.
Yeah, just to add to that is, brands shouldn't sort of join the sort of coattails of communities. They shouldn't see community as like a campaign as well. It shouldn't just be there for like, we want to join the vibe because that's what's happening, that's what's the cool thing, that's the shiny toy at the moment. They should really see it as a partnership, as an equal partnership as well. And yes, you are the brand, yes, you are potentially the multi-conglomerate organization, but also the community, the person who's founded the community has put a lot of sweat equity in their community, and they've done a lot of the grassroots stuff. And I think it's important that brands don't just see it as a quick and easy win or a campaign. I think it's really important that there's an alignment in terms of goals and values when partnering with a community. I had the fortunate opportunity of working with North Face for a number of years, who I thought was a good partner for my climbing community because of a lot of the outdoor stuff we do. And I think we did have alignment, and sometimes there was misalignment in terms of ideas, and just wanted to give us some clothes, but actually, in actuality, we wanted more experiences. And I think a lot of the communities who are working with brands, I think at the heart of it, they really want experiences for their community members. They want for me, as someone who grew up in South London, Brixton, I want to be like, I want to go to this Mount Kilimanjaro somewhere.
Yeah.
That's more powerful than just giving me a couple jackets, you know what I mean? So, yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think you're so right. Autonomy is so important when it comes to brand community partnerships. I'm in quite a unique position where I work as a content creator, and I've had partnerships with brands like Adobe and Meta, and I also work with content creators on their strategy, so I see it from both angles. And I also work with brands advising on who they should be working with from a content perspective. It's really interesting to see some of the briefs that come in that are like, okay, we'll give you X amount of budget to host an event, but we want a reel and a TikTok, but you have to read from this script. And it's like, you completely losing the essence of what this is about. I also think there needs to be a bit more slack for community builders partnering with brands, because like I know lots of community builders, myself included. I bootstrap pretty much everything from a community events perspective. And I'm not like a massive global business with like loads and loads of budget. And sometimes there's that fear, I don't know if you feel this as a creator as well, but like you don't want to sell out. But equally, like working with that brand enables me to put money back into the community. So I think there's also like that element of like wanting your community to be your own community, but ultimately brands can really help drive that community message forward. I also think some brands just don't need a community, like period. Like some people just want to be a passive member of your audience, or like toilet paper, for example. Like, I don't want to join a Discord channel to talk about loo roll with people. Like, it's just not necessary. But brands that have like that emotive pull and that real like value, like aligned values with potential communities, then yeah, I think it's like super important. But brands that just, exactly as you guys have said, that just kind of like ride on the trend, when actually what we're talking about here is like properly connecting people. But yeah, it all comes down, like you say, to values and autonomy, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Can I add to that as well? I also think that brands forget that community is like a long-standing thing that people do day in, day out. They do it outside of their, their 9 to 5. They're doing it on the weekends. It's not a partnering with the community shouldn't be a one-time thing. People can see that it's just they're throwing money at something. The way you really, the way you can really help a community is like, long-standing support. Even if that is, okay, we don't have budget, but we see what you're doing here. Can we connect you with somebody in our team who's like a producer that can maybe show you how to shoot something so that it looks amazing and you grow your following? Or how about you come in and we just have a catch-up with you guys because we really want to affirm what you're doing. Like, support to communities from like a brand perspective should be like really long term, I think, and thinking about like the value that you're really like adding.
Yeah, I think what you both said, Fia, is it something that is interesting in the sense that the community discussion that we've been having recently is very tied into the creator discussion of like how can we all work together in this world, because as you said, a lot of times you have a brief and it's completely like strict, and then it's like what's the point, or it's even having that person or that creator or that community if you're not going to give them any ability to decide what they want to do and how they want to partner with you. So I think there needs to be, as you said, Rutimi, like a partnership. On that note, as we're discussing flops and wins of bands, I want to know what are some of the main, let's say, pain points that you felt in building your community or seeing communities from one angle. Is there anything that's been like a difficult thing, or something you're like, oh, I shouldn't have done that? It's like everything.
I think that at the heart of community is people management, and you put yourself in this position of being a leader. Even if you didn't want to, now you are the leader because you're a founder of a community, right? But you also have to manage the individuals that sit within that community, and that can be a very difficult thing because people are different. People have different expectations, and sometimes you meet people's expectations, and sometimes you fall completely flat. I've definitely made mistakes in terms of like whether it could be finances. Maybe it's what I do, my vision for my community doesn't align with the rest of everyone else's vision. I think, just stuff we do outside of just climbing. Maybe it's like other activities, whether it's, I don't know, pole dancing or something different than just climbing. But like, I know managing people is not easy, and I've definitely made mistakes in doing that.
I think also just like capacity as a human, building a community is really hard work, and exactly as Fee said, like it's not just, oh, let's just host an event every quarter and bring people together. It's like you're in constant dialogue. If you're doing community well, you're in constant dialogue with the people that you're trying to connect and support, and that can be like, I have a WhatsApp group with over 400 creatives in, and I'm in that group every day, like whether it's Saturday, Sunday, I'm on holiday, because I have to moderate that, and that's a lot of work, and I love doing it. Like I don't feel like I'm not complaining at all, but I think that's something that I always try and caution people with, is like it's great to have a community, and it's also a privilege to be able to say, like, I've built a community, because, you know, to invite people into your space and for them to participate, like, that's a big deal, for people to be loyal to you and advocate for your work. So it's also like everyone wins in that, but it is a lot. Like, it's a lot, and it's constantly engaging people, making sure people are happy, understanding where they're at, understanding what they need. Like, when you build for community, it's not a broadcast for yourself, you're creating for people. So in order to do that efficiently, like, you have to know where their head is at. But with that, it's a lot of hours and conversations and connecting. And if, like, I'm not a super extroverted person, my social battery's like that big. So I personally can find that quite draining, and I think a lot of people can find that quite draining, although, like, the reward is definitely there. So I think it's also just being mindful of, like, how much capacity do you really have before you start a Discord group on top of all the other stuff you're doing. Like, just be really realistic. Like, do I have, Brittany's off again, do I really have the time, resource and capacity to do that? That's what I would say.
Yeah, and finding a channel that works for you, right? You have WhatsApp, some are just like, with Island Networking, I made so many mistakes because I was like, this is the way to do it, and then I was like, I can't keep up with it. So there's 1,000 people here. How do I talk to them?
Like, the notifications are like, ping, ping.
Yeah, so
Or
I
you
think
might get aired. You put a message in a WhatsApp group, and no one responds.
That's the worst.
And I'm
How's
right.
everyone's Monday? Crickets.
it's like everybody exits.
Yeah.
Yeah, it happens.
So what would I think? So the question was, sorry, as well, remind me of the question, like, how do you, like, the key points to building a community?
Yeah, if there's
The
been
pain
any
points.
big issues.
Yeah, so I think it's about knowing that community can evolve. It's unlikely to be the thing that you started it as, you know, and you have to ask your community members for feedback, and that is like the beauty of it, right? Because you could say, how do you feel about this? Like, we're planning an event with Club Creative Cymru at the moment. And we have to deal with, I'm not a Welsh speaker, but my co-creator is, and I have to deal with, you know, obviously having to translate the language. And, you know, we put an idea for a name into the group, and today into our WhatsApp group, and we had people, you know, sharing their opinions on, like, okay, if you translate it into Welsh, is it punchy? Is it this? It's like that, like you said, Daisy, that dialogue is, you know, is kind of evergreen, but it also means that what you've created is going to change, you know, and you have to listen to what people want, because you're creating it, you know, not to be a top-down, you know, sort of spokesperson to create, you know, you're creating for people and what they, you know, what they need.
I think that's one of the biggest, I guess, tensions of communities. It starts with usually something that, you know, I guess in most of the examples that we've had here, of something that you felt yourself from your lived experience of, like, there's a need for this, so I'm going to be the one creating it, which is incredible. But then as more people come in, you're like, what do I do? Because everyone has different aims and goals. And there's been, I'm very nerdy, so I'll cite some nerdy things now, but there's lots of research, for instance, on what is a third space, and people confuse communities with third spaces. We used to be, you know, churches and community halls and whatever. And there's also a conversation happening around what makes someone more willing to help someone else in terms of volunteer altruistic things, that it is if you're friends with someone different from you or not. And we are living in this world of, like, hardcore, like, everyone lives in their bubble. You get the algorithm that's perfect for you. You can just talk to people in that space. So how do we, as communities, evolve, I guess, how do we ensure that there are different voices, but still the community sort of true to its values? But are we wanting to create communities with, like, dissonant voices, or are we just trying to sort of almost replicate bubbles from social media in real life spaces?
I think there's definitely this, like, trend of communities looking like cool and aesthetic and almost like a popularity contest online, and actually, like, it's really important that we reclaim that true essence and the true word of community. I can speak on this from an experience I had last week for Mental Health Awareness Week, I brought 25 to 35-year-olds from my own community to do a collaging workshop with the elderly generation. So we went to an elderly community in North London, and we just sat around connecting. So when we talk about like having different voices and how we bring people together, I think the best way to do that is to remind people of their humanness and to really put them in situations that remind us like what actually is it to connect beyond surface level, and what actually is it to have real conversations, because I've been to community events hosted by brands and they feel kind of like surface level, and they're just inviting lots of content creators. There's not like real people there. And I think in order for us to connect for real and to have different voices in spaces, we have to be aware of different needs as well. Like one thing I'd also add just on that is, you're so right, we talk a lot about third spaces and in-person events, but they're actually not accessible for everybody. Like some people have accessibility needs. Some people from marginalised backgrounds don't feel safe in certain spaces. So I also think if you're a brand or a community builder, it's worth thinking about like, what are my touch points beyond just in-person stuff, and how can we make sure that things are accessible for, maybe not for everybody, because also with community, you may not want to appeal to absolutely everyone, and it's fine to be niche. But it's also important to think about like, how we can connect different voices in different spaces.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, just on your points, Daisy, about kind of like brand events often feeling a little bit surface level, or maybe a little bit like you go, you get seen, you leave. I think it's about, you've got to create this environment where everybody feels welcome. You're not looking for a specific type of person or a type of look to attend, because that's not community at all. Community is like where people go and they feel like they're able to connect to the next person and have a chat. That is like people are going there for the similar sort of reasons, which would then open up dialogue with other people from different backgrounds, from different ages. So I actually love the event that you did the other day. So cute. But I also think as well, there's ways that you can open up, you can get people feeling like connected and involved. So rather than, from a brand perspective, have activities that allow people to open up, whether it be question cards, or whether it be, getting people to talk to the person next to you, and it being like a, part of the schedule. I think there's ways that you can do it to really kind of like help foster those connections that make that event like way more memorable, way more of an achievement and a success, and makes you like makes that event stand out for them. You've partnered with lots of different brands with your community.
Yeah,
How has it worked?
I think fortunate for me, I come from like a marketing background. I worked for this company when I was 17 called Live Magazine, based in Brixton. And they had a magazine called, actually, the agency was called Liberty, and they had a magazine called Live, which was an amazing place for me to learn all things about marketing. So when I actually created my climbing community, I kind of had a little bit of a understanding that what I was creating was quite niche. It was very rare where you see a black man or black boy in London who climbs and brings other people to climb with. I kind of had an understanding that brands would sort of gravitate to that a little bit. So I wasn't surprised when we worked for like Nike and Samsung and North Face came knocking at our door. I think for me, it was more so about like really thinking through if it made sense at the time. Is this what I really wanted for my community, for my brand? Because what I really want for climbing specifically is just like bring climbing from it being a peripheral sport and making it more mainstream, and what brands could really do that with us. And I was thinking, oh cool, can we do this massive like cross-pollination of different brands that will sort of bring a footballer to come climbing, or like a tennis player to come climbing, just because I think that's really cool and it really sort of pushes the culture and the sport forward. And so when I'm working with brands, I'm also thinking, does this actually make sense for us and my community? But also sometimes financially, does it make sense for me? Do I need the money as well? Like, and sometimes you do need the money, and I think there's no shame in that, because you do a lot of the work behind the scenes that people don't even see. Whether that's admin, or whether it's answering emails, whether that's organizing, all the stuff that you don't see, that people don't put a pound value to, but it's time, and time is valuable, right? So, yeah.
Yeah, I think me and my co-creator of Club Creative Cymru, we worked out, I think we did like almost a whole year where we didn't earn a single penny. And so when we finally got paid for something, we were like, oh wow, we got paid like 20p per hour that we put into this. Yes! But we were really happy.
Yeah, I think for a lot of people, it's like a labor of love the community because it's out of something that you need sort of for yourself. And I think I'm sure we're gonna get ready to finish the time, but I want to just hear from all of you. What are some of the, let's say, key elements that you think make a community successful or have made your community successful? What are things that, like, was it listening to people, was also trusting your God? What are some lessons that you think you could share with anyone here?
Oh, I'm being polite.
Go on, Ricky.
I was going to say, people talk a lot about collaboration in community, especially with brands and like content creators and other communities, but I'm more interested in the idea of co-creation, which is like actually getting people's input and creating something from that. So don't just assume that a community want to see X, Y, Z from you, like actually get their input. Whether that's surveys, like people don't do focus groups anymore, but they're still so valuable. Like actually getting that real raw opinion and understanding what people want. So I think that constant dialogue that we've spoken a bit about already, but a lot of brands and the mistakes I see and community builders is that they broadcast when we should be inviting people to the conversation. So I would say like co-creation, beyond collaboration, like how can you really involve people?
I would say it's being intentional, being consistent, and showing up. So obviously I run a climbing community. We meet up for the last like 6 years. Been meeting up twice a week on a Monday and Saturday, and I've got to show up. I've got to be there. I've got to be a face.
That's a big commitment.
It's a big commitment. No one sees that, but it's a big
Yeah.
commitment.
It's a big commitment.
Yeah, and so showing up and being consistent, being a face that people can speak to, being someone that people can hold accountable as well. I think that's important. What you said about feedback, I think is important. Reading feedback is so painful.
It's so painful.
I did a trip maybe 2 years ago. We went to a place called Fontainebleau, which is like renowned for like rock climbing. And I asked people to give me feedback because I just wanted to see. I thought I did a really good job, but the feedback was like, "Yeah, you could have done this better." I was like, "What do you mean I could have done that better?" Anyway, but like I think it's important to be open to feedback, but also showing up and being intentional.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree. Being open to feedback and also open to how people can present that feedback. So if you are in like a WhatsApp group, maybe people don't want to share their feedback in there, or they might not want to come up to you. So we often do we might send around forms after our events to make sure in Club Creative Cymru that we're able to really receive that feedback in the best way possible. I also think it's like, building a community. You have to show up for your community. So it's not just about, community is not made by just having like a broadcast channel or like putting on an event. Community comes from you staying behind and chatting to somebody for an hour, or, picking up the phone when somebody, might be having a bad day, or, it's also going to the, people, community members, they have other pursuits that, they might need support for, and it's like turning up and, being a part of that. So community is like, it's that open dialogue. It's like, it's mutual, and it's a long-standing thing, It's doesn't happen overnight, but it's so valuable, and it's like, it's incredible when you can, I don't know, ask a question, or ask for somebody's advice, or even ask a favor from somebody from your community. It's special, but it requires effort to put that in there for other people to be able to do the same.
Sorry, can I just add one more thing just quickly? I would also say like ask for help, and make sure you're enjoying it, because it's quite easy we talk about like burnout a lot, and people like start the community and they can't keep going because they've taken on too much. But that's what community is really, like it's being able to support each other and help each other. So leaning on my own community and like collaborating with them has been really helpful. So I'd also say don't be afraid to ask for help.
And on that note, thank you so much for coming, guys. Thank you
Isabel.
all.
Thank you.
And thank you for being here. And in true I Like Networking forum, We Like Networking will be around. So if you have community questions, come talk to us in person. Like, like it should
Community.
be. Yeah, there you go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, guys. Well done. Thank